Okay, we'll go ahead and call the North Stonington Board of Finance meeting to order, please. Today is December 7th, and it is 7:01. In attendance are Carl Johnson, Mike Anderson, Amy Friend, myself, Paul Simons, Dan Smith, and Sarah Nelson. Okay, the first order of business is public comments, if there are any. Yeah, we could, if you don't mind, just thank you, Mike. Yeah, maybe if you're interested. We'd happy to roll a full compliment tonight. Thank you, Mike. Public comments, I don't see any in the room. He's unwell today. She did say she was going to call in, but I don't bring my phone here anymore just for that reason.
We have a text message from someone that they're having a hard time getting onto the Zoom.
Can
I just-
themselves? Is it,
I don't have them saved
no?
in my phone. It's on your thread. I just sent the link to see if that would help.
So it's got to be Winona then. So I don't know if you were able to call in using that same code. Okay. So no, I use your phone. So I'm not sure where we go with that. We'll wait and see if someone else can call in. I guess we move on. Oh, she's in. Okay. Winona, welcome. Okay.
So it is concerning though. She was using the agenda. Is it possible the agenda is not matching what's on the calendar? Because the
Yeah, so-
calendar link is what I used and that worked.
Okay, so I use the agenda and both agendas are the same, the one in our email and the one on the Board of Finance website, and that's what does not work.
Okay, so I must have sent Paul the wrong information because I also set up the EDC meeting for Monday, but I sent Jim separately the thing for the website, and that, since that does work, we're fine.
I can't hear you at all.
So I think it was probably a clerical error. I might have pasted the wrong one in there or something, but this thing's being recorded, so hopefully we can all listen to it in the future.
And it's also posted, if you go to the actual calendar, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Go to the actual website where it has the information for the meeting, not on the agenda. It does have the right information there because I sent that to Jim separately. So I must have sent Paul the EDC meeting from Monday instead of the Board of Finance meeting for Wednesday. So that's my fault.
Ready to move on?
we could still have a meeting though, right? Because it's
Yes.
posted on the web. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other public comments? All right, great. So moving on. Next line item is budget timeline. That was part of the attachments that should have gone out to everybody. I think we've seen those. I don't know if Christine, something you can put up, or if you just want to talk through those dates. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I trust that it's up there. So what do we have? The green, a single month, is that what that is?
Yes, so green is December. Jim's saying my mic isn't working. Okay, so December is in green. We have a tri-board meeting on Monday with, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education. We are hoping to send out, the budget paperwork to all the boards and commissions after tonight's meeting. Hopefully, we can get that finalized.
Is that at 7 o'clock, that tri-board meeting?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
So we would have the budgets due in on Friday, January 13th. We would have the assessor coming into your meeting on Wednesday, January 18th to review the grand list and see how things are looking as far as, the tax revenue. And then the Board of Selectmen would start having their general discussion on January 24th. As we move into, the pink section, that is February. So we would have presentations from Public Works, Economic Development, Land Use, and the Volunteer Fire Company. The Board of Selectmen would then at their regular meeting discuss, I need to change that because we're not meeting on Valentine's Day. I'll change the date on that. So the Board of Selectmen will discuss anything that happened at those presentations. Then on the 15th, the Wheeler Library Ambulance Association and Recreation Commission will do their presentations to both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. And then the Board of Selectmen will review those presentations at their regular meeting on the 28th. On the March 8th, the Board of Selectmen will present their budget to the Board of Finance. March 15th, the Board of Ed will present their budget to the Board of Finance. On March 22nd, the Board of Finance will review all of the proposals and then give feedback to those groups, and then changes would be presented on the 29th. Then as we move into April, which is the blue month, we would have Board of Finance finishing reviewing and vote to go to the public hearing on April 5th. With the public hearing being held on Monday, April 17th. That is the week following public school break, so we won't have a conflict with that. Any adjustments would be made that following Wednesday, and then the Board of Selectmen would call a special meeting to go to the annual town meeting, which would be held on Monday, May 1st, with a planned budget referendum Monday, May 15th.
Were there other sessions this month? Is that what I saw up there?
So the other information was if we were going to have, the Board of Selectmen already discussed the timeline and the budget process, so we can take that off. You guys are discussing it right now, so that's the 7th. And then on the 21st, if you wanted to have a general discussion about the budget, but I don't know that you'll have any information to have that. So I don't know if you want to have that or not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be around either, getting that close to the holidays. I have family who are traveling, so I'm not married to the 21st. If you guys want to take that off the calendar, okay, we'll take that one off. Great.
I'm good. I agree.
Okay, the rest of the dates in January, we know it's gonna be, once we get into February, we're gonna be doing this quite often, so. Any heartburn? We're gonna add some sessions.
My question to you all, as I was reading this out loud in March, you're getting a presentation, you're getting another presentation, then you're reviewing, and you're supposed to give feedback at that time so that those two groups can be ready to present the next week. So I don't know if you want to have another special meeting on not a Wednesday.
So we have a presentation from someone.
You have the Board of Selectmen on the 8th,
Yeah.
the Board of Ed on the 15th, and then your formal review to give feedback is the 22nd. So you would have to come into that meeting, have all your discussion, and vote to make recommendations to both to make changes.
Seems fast, but go ahead, Dan.
I was just thinking that maybe if we were gonna do something like that, we would have a discussion on the 5th and maybe a vote on the Friday, like 2 days later. Just so we stay Wednesday, and then if we need to, we can extend it that week and have the vote on Friday. It doesn't kick it to the next Wednesday. Are we with this May 17th, set the mill rate, where do we fall into, we have to have everything done by?
So by town ordinance, the annual town meeting shall be the first Monday in May. So that's why that's May 1st. So that's on our own rules, when we're supposed to have that.
But we're not
meeting.
breaking state statute,
It is our own rules.
our own rules. Rules are made to be broken, I guess. I'm just thinking that where we always have the most discussion.
Yeah.
Is once we give our guidance and everything, and we're always hammering it out. That last week of March, first week of April.
So I'm wondering that,
Christine is saying is we may have to have some, I don't know what, the 31st. Is there 31 days in March?
what's the nursery rhyme? I don't know.
I think so.
March,
Okay.
yeah, 31.
So that Friday, if we need to have another special meeting, then we always are willing to do that if we
Yeah.
have to. You know,
I,
Wouldn't it would be between the 22nd and 29th?
yeah, I was just gonna say that, Carl, I agree.
Yeah, sometime between, so you're getting the presentation from Board of Ed on March 15th. So sometime between the 15th and the 29th, if you would, I think it would make sense to have two meetings. One for you to just discuss the budget and one for you to make recommendations, but then you have to give them enough time to both have meetings to come back with changes.
So it's gonna have to go between the 15th and the 22nd.
Yeah, I think you're right.
If it's just 2 days to discuss. First one to throw it around, it takes us 3 hours. And then the second one, to iron all the pieces out to give to them for the next, so they got a week to fix it. Does that sound logical?
Yeah, so when.
Are
when
you
was-
guys using microphones?
One, yeah, they're not turned up.
I can hear Paul fine and I can hear Christine fine. Carl, you're kind of cutting out a little bit.
So what was I'm sorry, what was the presentation in February? Was there someone
So your presentations, February 1st are Public Works, Economic Development, Land Use, and the Fire Company. Then on the 15th, Wheeler Library, Ambulance Association, and Recreation.
okay. I guess I kind of like to understand, because Board of Ed often asks for guidance before they build a budget, right?
Yeah,
So we understand revenues by then.
On January 18th is when you have the grand list presentation from
okay.
the Board of,
Okay.
from the assessor.
The assessor, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Has the Board of Ed, presentation date been put forth to them and saying, hey, are you good with this date? Because I know last year that they were waiting and they wanted to go as late as possible.
That is as late as possible.
That is as late as what date did we end up having them last year?
The week before that.
The week before that?
Because last year we had to have the annual hearing a week earlier because of public school break.
So reasonable then to put another meeting in between the 15th and the 29th, date to be determined, or is that inappropriate? Am I making that?
I don't think you need to schedule it. If we need it.
I mean, this is gonna go out to everybody so they know what the timeline is.
Oh, it's just us. It's,
No,
not
this goes out with the budget ask so that everyone knows when their presentations are and what the deadlines are and.
so if we decide we need another meeting, it's okay. That's not necessarily on there. We're not changing their presentations, but we have to change our work.
I think you needed whatever day you're going to give the feedback to the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen, I think should be on here. So if that's not the 22nd, then that should be discussed moving because they need to know to be at that meeting and that if they need to schedule a special meeting between the 22nd and the 29th to get their feedback back for the 29th, they need to know what the plan is for that.
So I struggle with getting the board or anybody's budget, yours or anybody else's, one day, one meeting, and then come back the following meeting to give feedback, and we haven't had time to discuss, right? So we want to slide a meeting in there. to do that. So I'm hearing you, Dan, and Mike, if it's a Friday afternoon session, we have to have those discussions before we give feedback. That's what we have to do.
I think what we're gonna end up having is the 29th is gonna, what we have from the 8th, 15th, and 22nd is probably gonna bleed into the 29th. And we're gonna end up slipping probably a week somewhere in there. It always happens.
Yeah, that's what it is, right?
It is what it is, and I'm fully anticipating the first week of April and everything, we're gonna still be probably talking about it.
It takes work, right?
That's usually how it works.
So going back to what I said earlier, it's like we're gonna get presented first 2 weeks of March. The third week would come back and that's when we're gonna be trying to chewing on it. All right, we have to be at that time, either at the end of that meeting, be ready to give the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education any proposed changes that we have, so they can come back on the 29th with whatever they thought they could do.
Right, because they have
So-
to have meetings and vote to bring it back to you.
Right, which goes back to my point of saying, if we're gonna get the thing to chew on, we're just gonna start debating on the 22nd. I think at that point, if we don't finish that by that day, Paul, we throw a special meeting on Friday and publish it. Can we publish it the next day? And
You have to have 24 hours notice, but if you're not giving the feedback to them, they then also need 24 hours notice to schedule a special meeting to make their changes to their budget and approve it.
all
to
right,
have
so
it ready
when
for you
when
on
after the
20th.
22nd would they be meeting? The following Monday and Tuesday?
On the Tuesday.
A lot of times Board of Ed does Saturday mornings
So if we
to
have,
try to get people
so
together.
we'll have all of our discussions on the 22nd. If we need that Friday, we can publish on Thursday morning and have a Friday session
Mhm.
and give them everything that we need to on Friday. So on Saturday, if Board of Ed meets and if,
They would already have to have scheduled that Saturday meeting. So I think, when you meet on Wednesday, if you can if you can tell them to schedule a meeting for Saturday and say that you will have guidance for them by Friday, they should be fine, but they can't file on Friday for Saturday.
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm saying they're gonna have to have a meeting set up regardless of whether we're done on the 22nd or not, correct?
Right, but if they say they scheduled it for Thursday, I don't know when would plan to meet.
Okay.
So I'm assuming the Board of Selectmen would meet on Tuesday because that's their normal meeting day. But Board of Ed meets the same day you guys do, so they're gonna have to
All right,
have
well,
a,
let's put a meeting on on the 25th or 24th. So they know that they should schedule their meeting after that. If we need it, we need it. If we don't, we don't.
That's
But
right.
it's there and it tells them, don't schedule your meeting until after this Friday.
All right, this is gonna be very fluid in that
Can,
time. Bob? Hang on one second. Sarah, was it? Or was
yeah,
it-
I just wanna, I feel like we're trying to squeeze it between the 22nd and the 29th is just like squishing it too much. Just an alternate suggestion, and we don't have to go with it, is what if we did something like the Monday after the March 15th meeting? So if we had a Monday meeting, then we would deliberate no, we won't get, so why do we
So-
get do we get the full budget we don't get it for a full week after? So Christine, just logistically, we get the BOS, Board of Selectmen, then we get the Board of Ed on the 15th. Does that assume that on the 15th, we then have the complete budget?
yes, so you'll have the Board of Selectmen full budget on the 8th. You'll get the Board of Ed separate full budget on the 15th. I'll throw their number into our budget just so that it's all in one place. And then at that point, you'll have all the pieces.
So I would almost, if we were gonna add an extra day, I would almost rather add it the Monday before the 22nd. And then if we don't need the 22nd, we can cancel it if we got it all done. But we're kind of assuming like the 22nd isn't enough time. And
What-
and
I think the logic was that it's not enough time for us to have us go sort it out and then talk back to the. respective
Right.
boards, Right?
so if we pushed our meeting instead of being on the 15th, or not pushed it, but if we
I hear you. Yeah.
I'm looking at the calendar. I don't know the date.
Yeah, and
So if
let me
instead
know
of the
if-
22nd, we had one on the 20th, we might get everything done we need to get done on the 20th. Could cancel the 22nd, and then they would have plenty of time to know what they need to know.
Then they can still meet later that, sorry.
What about the 27th?
I mean, I think you're right. I think we know that we're gonna
I
need
don't
more
think we have, we
meetings.
don't have, that's not enough time for them to meet and then say that they have they
If we-
vote on their changes for the following Wednesday.
No.
So I I don't mind your idea, Sarah. I'm, I like a meeting on Monday more than Friday anyway, so
Me too.
I'm totally down with that.
Yeah. So is one enough? Could we have
Doesn't work for
Monday
me.
the 20th?
Doesn't matter to you.
Is
So
Monday-
let me ask you a question. We're gonna try and discuss both budgets on one night.
That's,
Instead of trying to put a date between the 8th and the 15th to discuss the first one, then discuss the second one if we need time.
how about we just schedule one for every single Monday in
Well,
March?
that's
and then
where I
just-
was going.
And then
And
we
if we just
cancel them.
cancel it, we cancel it, we cancel it.
Because for us,
Monday the sixth.
I think
and
for us to
Monday the-
discuss both them budgets in one night, trying to remember what he gave us the week before,
It's a
is
lot.
gonna be a lot more difficult. Whereas if we discuss it as we are and set it aside, the next one comes in, then we can discuss that one and not trying to mix and match.
So
we-
Monday, Wednesday meetings, go ahead.
So there is a tri-board meeting scheduled for March 13th. So just either avoid that day or meet after that.
So that's,
So why don't we move that day? If we
I was
need
to
it
say,
to
is
do
that,
the
is that
budget.
really?
Yeah, I'd rather move the tripod.
What's that? I know.
We just cancel.
That meeting is, I think it's an important meeting. It probably doesn't trump this, but. Well, there's gonna be deliberations happening with this board only, right? Before we come back to you guys. So
Yeah, because usually when we have those deliberations and everything, we want to have it amongst ourselves.
yeah, it's
and-
important. You get a lot of different voices at the, we're gonna need those voices a week later, but maybe not all together, right? Yeah. So are you guys thinking now we can have a Monday, the 13th and Wednesday, the 15th, Board of Selectmen work, and then the 20th and 22nd?
Hmm.
That's a reasonable approach. And if we don't need either.
I think
both,
that, to me,
all-
that's more reasonable as far as discussing the first one first.
Yeah.
And not trying to do both at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
What
my
are we
opinion.
talking? I'm sorry, say that again?
So suggesting adding Monday meetings for, I'm sorry, I really can't see that. So the 13th and the 20th.
Okay.
To discuss respective budgets. Now, if we don't need all four of those meetings in those 2 weeks, we can punt, right? I have a
Right.
feeling We'll need them.
Can I just ask that when you look at the Board of Selectmen's budget on the 13th, you don't necessarily start thinking about what you can cut because you haven't seen all the pieces of the budget as a whole. Ask good questions, have good conversations.
Yeah.
If you see something glaringly that you feel doesn't belong in the budget, then by all means, but I think the Board of Selectmen's budget is always at a disadvantage because they go first. And you're not seeing all $21 million, you're seeing $5 million first. And you're looking at that and you sit with that longer and then think all the things that could come out of that when it's a smaller piece of the
I
pie.
think that's a fair request.
Make the Board of Ed
Can
go.
we get the tri-board meetings into this calendar, please?
I'm sorry, what, go ahead.
Can we get the tri-board meetings updated in this calendar?
Are any
Sure.
of the tri-board meetings on here? None of them are yet, right?
No,
One is,
Monday.
when
okay.
I made this, I only had the other one.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So I get it.
If the sentiment that, is that the Board of Selectmen's budget's at somewhat of a, say, disadvantage, why don't we just flip flop them and have the Board of Ed go?
They won't be ready.
I don't
Why
think they'll
not?
be ready.
They-
They're,
they're- no, they're
you're
good
talking
for-
about a $14 million budget versus a five, it's more pieces. They need more time.
Yeah, I'm
They-
totally
they-
okay with us going first, but I just think,
No, I
you
think
know,
You're
you're
saying that they're gonna be, they're going 1 week later than they were last year.
yes, and they felt it was too early last year and they didn't have all the pieces.
No
to the
matter
budget.
what, no matter what day we're gonna give them, it's gonna be too early. You know that and I know that. No matter what we give them, it's gonna be way too early. We're not gonna know enough. They said it last year when they put, we don't know enough right now. We're still having stuff out there.
No, I think you're right. I mean, we all want more time, but I think Christine's request is a reasonable one. We shouldn't have the hatchet out quite at meeting number one. Understanding that for a selecting budget before we see the Board of Education is good. But you're right. I mean, they would love more time, but so would we.
I'll
We
have
just-
my
we
hatchet
just-
out.
We'll keep it.
Just don't bring your real one.
That's right. Just bring the baby boys, the rubber one. All right, so add 2 Monday meetings. We're gonna have to likely bump the tri-board meeting. And then what else on this calendar could use some revision? Now we're in April, the work is done at that point, right?
Hopefully. Yeah, so you'll have the hearing on the Monday, the 17th, and then you'll have a meeting on the 19th to make adjustments based on the feedback from the hearing. That was the same thing we did last year and it seemed to work well.
Paul, do you need any sort of support session for creating the,
Yeah,
Um,
presentation?
yeah, for the
good.
hearing?
I was plagiarizing.
Dan's.
I think Mike presented it last year. I know where I was, not this year though.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, we think we had a little brainstorming, maybe a mini group, doesn't have to be the whole team, but dozen slides would be great.
Yeah,
So that's
Yeah.
we need some time in there.
We can workshop that one, correct?
Yeah. So where would that have to lie? Just before
Just
the
sometime
hearing?
before the 17th. Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't have to be here, I guess, but we can talk about it as we go more. But thank you for that. I definitely need some assistance with that.
yeah, happy to help.
Thank you. All right, just those 2 edits, I guess, adding a couple calendar dates, adding the tri-board meeting, although, Winona, I'm not sure we know where it's gonna land right now, so, it's gonna be hard to put that back in there.
That's fine.
Okay,
Okay, so I will email this out with updates to you guys tomorrow. And then when the request goes out to everyone, they'll get a copy of it as well.
great, thank you. Okay, nothing else on that? The budget request template. Thank you, Sarah, for putting it together, and thank you, Christine, for you about to be putting it on the board for us.
I think in one of the last meetings, if it's okay, Christine, I don't know if you're all right making live edits, if that's okay, Paul. I think we agreed we would take the word strategic projects out, and make it a little bit simpler language.
So did we say what we were gonna call it instead?
No.
That I don't recall, no.
Major projects, maybe?
Key initiatives.
Key initiatives?
Nice, yeah.
You can put both.
And then in B11, we would need to update strategic projects to major projects or key initiatives or whatever we're changing it to.
After you fix all the dates. Thank you, Christine.
that verbiage in there? I'm sorry.
It says, please list any strategic projects or goals that are included in your budget planning this year that would be important for the BOF to take into consideration while reviewing your budget.
Great. Okay. Sounds fitting.
So just mirroring the language of the bullet, that
Yep.
what we're calling it.
Okay.
Any major projects or key initiatives that are included in the budget.
And this bit here?
That's
So-
budget changes, it just please list out any changes that impact budget planning
Okay, that's an
this
important-
year.
Yeah, that delta I think is important to understand why people are asking for less money than last year, which I'm sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was kind of important for a couple different reasons. We didn't want to, if they reallocated funding, we didn't want to take it away. Like we didn't want it to get cut in unnecessary, certain, if they move things around for a reason. Just clarifying that so we don't say, why is there $5,000 in office supplies, right? Like, we actually,
You think
last
we
year
should
there
get
was
to
only
that line
1,000.
item?
What's
Was the
that?
budget Here, I'm sorry, down to the line item level?
I don't think it had to be at the line item level. It could be if that was necessary, but I think sometimes, money kind of they like Board of Selectmen will put like $1,000 or $2,000 into something with the intent that they want to get it up to $10,000 so that they can then use it. And if we just look at it and say, oh, it's $10,000 this year, and like just something that would give context to why you're doing something unique this year that you didn't do in the previous years.
Yeah, we could, like, for example, last year we had the Board of Education come in with a much different medical insurance budget because they had gone out and gotten, a much better package. So that's something that should be in this area saying, you'll notice that the delta here is a lot different than it was in the last 2 budget cycles, and here's why.
Right, yeah.
So last year, the Board of Ed did not do this form. So if you want them to do it, I think you need to identify if they're doing one form for their entire budget, or if they should be doing one form for central office, one form for facilities, one form for the middle high school, one form for the elementary school, or if it's just one form for.
We can't. There's a different rule for the Board of Ed, right? On that we can't, I know we can probably comment, but we can't ask for changes to line items. That's right.
That's right.
This is more intended to be an educational summary. There's been a lot of times where we've
Well,
gotten into discussion. and
I'm just
cut-
thinking that this would be good as just an overall for the Board of Ed. And not
Right.
by each of those offices.
I completely agree.
Yeah, no, I think, and they do show us line items on their presentation, so I don't think we're not seeing it. And they show what it was the previous year.
Right, I
so
was
we
just
had
an
the
example. I mean,
yeah.
this is for other departments that's kind of an example of what we're talking about here. What we want to see is if there's something drastic on there, throw it in there and tell us why.
That's all.
Right, but I also wanted to make sure that if they are expected to do this, that I tell them they are expected to.
I don't think we're gonna give them another, I mean, that's my opinion, but
They throw a lot of numbers at us with a lot of line items to sort through. If we can, if we're gonna expect to hold everybody accountable to do this, I think we have to do it to all, but we can't do it to just all but one,
So what would be
Oh.
reasonable?
How many departments is there in their budget? How many sections? 4?
For their budget?
Yeah.
It depends how you look at it. I
That's
mean,
right.
I don't think it's the worst thing. They are technically in the town budget, one line item. So if you just had them do one form for all, that it encompassed all the major changes that they're going to present.
So give them 22 pages.
One form, 22,
One form, 22 pages.
22 charts. yeah.
If it's in clumps, I would say put one for each clump, and that's easier for us to sort through instead of trying to find a particular line item that they throw at us. That sound logical?
I'm just thinking that from a fair standpoint, we're expecting.
Well, they need to do,
everybody
they need
to
to do
it
one anyways, but
except
is it
for
easier?
them.
No, they should do one.
They should
but-
do at least one. Me
that's-
personally, I know what Gary would say. Hey, Gary, he would want to have one for the high school, one for central government, central office. He would want to see one for each one of the big clumps.
Yeah, it's not
It's not, I,
really clear to me how I would ask them to break that up. So short of that, we want to get this done tonight. We want one. If they deliver one and we think we know more information, we can always kick it back.
we can always say we want at least one.
Yeah, the one they will deliver.
Yeah, having never gotten one, I think I agree with you, Paul. Let's ask for the one.
Yeah.
And then as we're going through the budget this year with them, if we find that it makes sense next year to ask for specific groupings, then we can do that. I think we'll be more educated as we're reviewing the budget. Short of pulling up last year's budget and trying to figure it out right now, which I don't think anyone wants to do. I think that would be the best approach.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you, Dan. Expectation is everyone will do this, including me.
But Christine, I guess if you can just relay that we're
Absolutely.
just looking for the one from them for now.
I think we need to make changes to the last risk mitigation section, because I don't think that people understood what they were supposed to do there.
So I specifically put this section in, I think. And the one thing that keeps coming back to mind that I wish, like, if this was done, would have been the truck, right? Like we keep going back to that truck example when it was rusted out and unsafe. That's the kind of thing I would love to see in there, right? Like anything major, like, under no, like, it is so important that I keep X money, because under no circumstances can I do without it this year. It's a safety concern. It's a building maintenance upkeep concern.
No, I think that's a good one. I mean, there's probably a half a dozen items you can put, like capping the landfill. We're gonna have to, at some point, try to figure that out. Maybe it's retaining key talent. There's a lot of stuff that we can do to try to get some insight into.
Yeah.
performance, Right?
Can we change the wording so it's more to, like my style? Instead of mitigation, put something else in there.
You know, like the
How much it
corporate
would
speak.
cost? You know,
Yeah.
Christine says it sounds,
Is it something like known future expenses?
Or exposures. Yeah, I think there's stuff
Yeah.
like that,
I'm with you.
Known,
No?
Wait, Carl, what's a good
How
word?
about exposure,
I don't know a
solution?
good word,
Just
but I'm just
solution.
thinking it.
Yeah.
So we have solution,
so it's known future risks and known and solutions.
possible solutions.
Makes sense?
Just trying to simplify it for some of the people that are
Yeah, I'm with you.
volunteers on the boards.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
We also just give the option to put none. A lot of the departments might not have any, of these,
Yeah, it's true. It could be,
so they might not understand it because it doesn't really.
I mean, and do we have a good example to put in here? Is that what Amy's saying?
The truck.
There is a good example already in there, I think.
No, I was just saying that some departments might not have this need or have, so the reason why they might not be understanding it is because they don't have any risk mitigation to assess.
And I'm putting if applicable for that section, but I'm also gonna put that for the summary of unexpected income and unexpected expenses, because some departments may not have any unexpected, like,
Yeah,
The only other
If
thing.
none, say, please say none.
Do we expect any of these departments to have unexpected income that go over 3 or unexpected expenses to go over 3? I'm just looking for an overall format portion of it. Say they have 5, they're gonna say, I only have a spot for 3. I really want to put 5.
oh, to add row.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Are we submitting this digitally and expecting it to be digitally brought back to us?
I would think. yeah.
Would it be
2022.
better to break this up and to have tabs on the bottom and have each one of those as tabs? No?
they're not gonna.
well,
what, they're not gonna do it by.
They're not gonna realize that there's tabs. A lot of times, the way that people open up these emails, they don't even realize that there's two tabs on it right now. I'm being completely honest.
Okay,
throughout
well.
how
So
this-
can we communicate that there's two tabs in this file when we send it to them?
I did that last year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, do it.
Are these the same ones that we have an issue with year in, year out?
I just don't feel. If people are having a problem with this, they reach out to me and they talk to me. So it's better for it to be on one form, because then if you guys want to have it printed out and look at it, it's one piece of paper rather than 4 pieces of paper.
I'm just
So-
bringing it up.
No, I think they might have 5, and if if they do, any questions, call Christine.
Either that or a note that says additionals add to the
Look
back,
to the right.
move to,
Yeah.
or add to the right.
Insert a row.
Or do we have an opportunity for Christine or someone to like see these as they come in and only half of the information is filled out?
I
To-
review them all as they come in, yes.
So if you get, like, cause you're saying some people don't know there's 2 tabs, so if you get a blank second tab, do you go back and say, hey, you missed a tab?
Yes, I do that.
Yeah, it's the start of data collection, right? If there's questions, we go back.
Can I ask you guys an honest question? Did you review these last year when they came in?
What
Yes.
what's the question?
Did you review these when they came in last year?
Yeah, they were in that weird box thing that I don't even know how clue how to get back to.
They were pretty light, Christine, so I'm not worried about adding additional rows. They were
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody's gonna give us 5 things. We're lucky if we get 2 or 1.
my hope is that as we continue to push that, because that was only the second year we've done it, I think.
Yeah.
As we continue to push it out, people take it seriously and
Okay, so what we could do is, Mr. First Selectman, if you have a budget that comes to you without one of these forms, are you gonna kick their budget back and say, we're not gonna accept what you're proposing without this form being filled out?
Well, Christine said she checks them and send them back if they're blank.
Okay, well,
What I'm saying, do you use these yourselves when you're hearing from your departments?
Yes, we use them ourselves. Christine sees them first and then we bring them to the board of selectmen.
To answer your question, I would think that if these guys have an issue or a question from their departments, they're the first line of defense from their own departments that use this information. And if we need to use them, that would be helpful then, but I think it's actually more helpful for them because they're the one that are reviewing these budgets and we're just kind of overseeing that afterwards. That's to answer your question. So
Yeah.
no, I didn't really look at these a lot last year.
I'm sorry, Bob, I don't know that, we never talked about anything that was on these sheets in the Board of Selectmen meetings. We only looked at the chart. As far as the notes that people entered in there, I treated this as this was for the Board of Finance. This was not discussed by the Board of Selectmen.
We
You
didn't
guys
use
had
those last
access
year?
to it, but I don't know that anyone looked at them.
Okay, so we did not use those last year,
No.
what you're saying.
We just use the line item name, and then the notes, because most people put comprehensive notes in the notes section of the secondary form. And then I put that onto the master budget, but I don't know, and I can't speak for all 3 selectmen, because I don't know if they all went in individually and read these separate sheets, but
But see, I kept a copy and read every one of them,
Okay.
so I would think that, and I thought we all did it, I mean, I thought we all had copies of these.
not these.
I did.
I read them all.
Mhm. I have a
I
file with
read
them
more
all.
about in the annual report, what they did last year. That's what I reviewed.
So I'm gonna
And I think
embarrass
part of
myself.
that, as part of this whole process is that, these guys getting together to put that together and I think this is it's still valuable and I think this is kind of as far as we've been here, this is maybe the second time that we're talking about doing this. So it's kind of a learning process for us to say, all right, now we have some stuff and as the Board of selectmen are going over their budgets with us, we'll have these in front of us and we can say, all right, this is, I see what they're saying here. This is why they had an increase or a decrease or whatever. And
Honestly, the best way to do this would be every single, if this is the form we were gonna use, we use the same Excel and we put another tab, like this is for this budget, and then this one's for this budget, and then keep their file, would just say it's for the cemetery, right? Cemetery, this budget's for this one, the next year we send it back out, saying go fill out the next tab, and then the next tab, so we can go click, 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 to go through them all. So when you wanna go what the year by year, cemetery information is, you have a tab at the bottom of every single one of those, and you can go year by year by year by year. I think that's a better way of tracking it, so we don't have 1,000 pieces of paper sitting around.
and it's a digital,
The
it's a digital, history,
library.
which is fine. I mean, as long
Right.
as you're okay with doing that.
If
Well-
that's what we're gonna use.
I send them a blank one. So then it's up to them to keep the old blank one.
So how do they fill this out? Do they just
I-
write on a piece of paper? and
No, I
send it?
email it to them, but I email them this blank form and they type it in and send it in.
So
And
can't
then
we
I
just
have-
add these 2 new tabs to last year's version and send them last year's version?
I would have to send them their individual completed last year's version to each individual person.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a lot of extra logistic. Like just having been the person who coordinates that kind of stuff.
It's either you do it now, right, or we just don't do it at all.
So
I think it's valuable information. I mean, if we have 2 Excel files or 10 for each department, you're right, it gets clunky.
It gets clunky, at least though, each commission, each department has their one Excel that we just keep a yearly file inside that Excel file. It's a tab, it's,
So the way that it comes to us now is she sends this out, they put the cover sheet, they fill out the cover sheet, which is the first tab, and then they click on the budget request and they put the budget in. So we get one document with both those items.
for each board, commission, department.
yeah, so I'm saying, which, not that this is easy, but so the name of this would be Cemetery Commission Budget Request Form. And the first 2 tabs are the 2022, 2023, and then next 2 tabs are 2023, 2024, and they have to fill out the 2 new ones.
So here's the thing though. Christine, and I'm not advocating against it. I'm just thinking through the logistics, right? So Christine, a lot of times there are changes made to the budget after it's consolidated. So Christine would have to go and figure out what their final draft was. Send that back to them with the new sheets. Like it's, I don't know that we'd have, with the way that the budget is managed now, I don't know that we'd have, how great the data would be.
Because
they-
these forms were not updated with the final budget numbers. That's what you're saying?
I'm guessing, I guess
They're
Christine.
just Their requests. So every time, so I get all these in, I make the first draft of the budget, which is everybody's, what I really, really want for Christmas is this money. Then I have my first round of cuts that the Board of Selectmen does. Then I have the second round of, so everything is a new file, but it's all compiled together. It's not the individual request sheets. It's now the full 34 line item budget that has the changes from their first meeting, their second meeting, then whatever they're bringing to you, then if there's suggestions made at your meetings, or then a recommendation to change or a new change from the Board of Selectmen. So I end up with, let's say, 10 different versions of the budget, so that if someone says, well, what did we say on the March 8th meeting? I can pull up that file and look at that. But the people still requested the same number from the very beginning. That never changed. What they asked for didn't change, just what they were approved for.
And are all those iterations important to keep record of?
On the town side, yes, as the full file, but not for the individual department.
Right, yeah, down to that level of granularity. I don't know that it adds a lot of work, but for what do we gain from that, right?
I think the second page, we can just probably do away with, and for the data collection of what we were trying to do is at the very beginning of just building the budget. The first sheet is really what we're looking for.
No, this breaks it down by line item. This is what I need. So this page is
So
not
that's how you're
negotiable.
gonna- That's how you're gonna build a budget for the, selectmen's budget,
So
off of that one.
yes, because this has the line item number, the line item name, and how much money they're asking for. This is last year's, so I haven't changed
Okay.
that. But this is speaking in generalities. This is saying that the fire company wants $140,000, but they have one line item that has $100,000, another line item that has $20,000, another line item that has $20,000, another line item that has $20,000. So let's take like the town clerk. You have the town clerk salary line, you have the assistant line, you have office expenses, you have ordinances, you have, she has like 7 line items. So there's nothing on this sheet that specifies each individual line item. This is just generally speaking, these are the major impacts to my budget. So like when Daryl did this last year, he put in this major factors was that the cost for the DMV book was doubling. So it went from $400 to $800. But this doesn't have that, the line item for that is the 4.02 office expenses. But the other sheet shows all that.
The original intent when I drafted this a couple of years ago was that every presentation was different. Like some people came and just talked about like one thing in there that they wanted to do and not the rest of their budget. And other folks spent, and like basically just had all their line items on a page. It was just, the intent was to standardize what they were telling us. So we at least had the big boulders in mind before we went into the line item review. That was sort of my intent. Now, whether folks are getting other things out of it, that's in more stuff, then awesome. We should do that. But that just to kind of reset, like that was the intent of it. Was there was no standardization of the presentations. They were all over the place.
So I don't know. Dan, what are you thinking if Christine was to put this out and have 2024 year, 2026, 2028 tabs, so we can keep that thought process rolling for the future? And then
I think what Christine is saying, that problem will still remain if these aren't updated after the final budget has been modified. We're losing the interim.
yeah, we still have, well, yeah, you're right. That's that other sheet still updated.
I just think we're overcomplicating this too much. It's like departments have to, here's what the other budget was. This is the new budget. Here's the big nuggets that are causing any changes in the budget. And it's really only reflective of what's going on this year, and I get your point. I just think logistically for Christine to do that and to be able to send them out, their individual notebook that has tabs upon tabs upon tabs. I mean, I don't know how hard that would be. I just think we're using it for information for this year, and the year-over-year budget is already generated. We see that information that, what there was last year, what their budget was, what their actual was, and what they're asking for, and what, we can go back as many years as we want on that. And those are actual numbers versus something that's, their first proposal.
Or we just do away with it.
No, I like this form. I just don't know how to make it 10 years with the forms. I think it's good metadata, right? It's good.
If you're not gonna keep the data year after year after year, then what's the point?
But we are keeping the data.
Yeah, it's not going
Well,
anywhere.
but
It's
you're
not
not-
in one file, one worksheet, right?
It's to tell us what's going on this year.
Yeah.
Really.
That's
And it-
what they should be doing in their presentations.
Not everyone does a presentation.
Not everyone
Well,
does.
whatever they're given the first elections.
That's why I said it'd be more beneficial for them because
Yeah.
we're getting 5 presentations, and these guys are getting as many as they have, and they're.
How many presentations you usually have? Roundabout.
A lot of the-
They don't have any other presentations. all the presentations are those shared presentations. Everything else is an individual sheet from a department or a commission.
That
So
means
all the
these are
departments in
important.
town hall don't
These are
do
For them.
presentations.
Yes.
Communication tool, yeah. And they, without these, they can't build their budget. right?
Yeah, and I misspoke. They did, Bob, I believe Bob, they use these, but I didn't print them for them.
Well,
So-
Self-sufficient. huh?
If they use this the most, it should be a Board of Selectmen budget summary sheet. It shouldn't be the Board of Finance.
We
If
need,
they use it and we're just using it as a reference, they should own it. They should be able to populate it however they want and tailor it, and we're just gonna pull off the data that we want out of it. It should be however they want it. If they're gonna be the ones that use it to build their budgets and everything like that, they should own it. They should keep it however they want it, however it makes Christine happy, right? That's how they
So,
should have it. It should not be.
I-
a Board of-
I want it for consistency. So what, the first year that I was on the Board of Finance, and it's not entirely consistent now, but every presentation, I originally envisioned this as like something that would be like their first slide in a presentation, but that's not how it works, you know, with the budget review. So it was better as a spreadsheet. But there should be some consistency in how they present to us. If we don't ask for that consistency, then we're going to be in the meetings and people are going to get mad and they're going to be like, well, why didn't you tell this? Or why didn't you share that? Right? Like the goal was to create some consistency that put some structure around the meeting so that it had kind of a bit of a flow. We understand what you were doing last year, what you're asking for this year. We understand what some of the really important things are, like you need a new truck. Like, let's get those out of the way at the beginning of the conversation, because those are the most important things to talk about. And then we have the opportunity to go on the second tab and go line by line and review everything else. But at least we know we've heard and gotten out of them the most important things.
Yeah. So there are departments that we don't see that they see.
Yeah.
That I understand what you're saying, but it's still our form because we have the ones that we're gonna get with the fire department, you know, rec department, the library, they're doing the same forms. And if we're asking the Board of Ed to do it too, it's gotta be our form.
But they're gonna see a lot more of these forms than we're gonna see.
I understand that, but we're sending them out to all departments and because we are the bastions of the budget.
And everyone has access to see all of them.
Right.
So it's your choice if you want to look at it or not, but you will have access.
So I hear what Sarah's saying, but this hasn't changed the presentation, how they look when they present to us, right? It maybe helps them think a little bit more about their presentations, but it hasn't changed what they look like, because the Board of Ed is a very different looking presentation than,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yeah.
Really about how the budgets are being made or how they're gonna be presented to us. We should have the ones that are gonna be coming to present to us saying, this is bring them all in here and say, this is the expectation we're seeing for your presentation. This is what we expect. Not just hand them a form and say, here you go, guys. This
So I
is the
think
first
that's-
slide that we should see.
that's probably a heavy lift right now.
Oh,
Too, you know, when they're creating their own presentations without any sort of format, and they should, they do create those to their advantage.
Oh, yeah.
So if we
course.
can provide, like, I think this serves a certain purpose, the presentation serves a certain purpose, you know, the budget request tab serves a certain purpose. Like, maybe there needs to be, you know, I don't know, some sort of a presentation format, or tell them that this cover sheet is your presentation format. Like, we don't want the pretty pictures type of deal. We want this information that's on the sheet. It's good to have their, you know, the story behind it, and, you know, to hear their opinions and all. And it's an important part of it, but we just want them to be consistent. I mean,
So what,
I think I don't feel like anybody is on the same page as to what this actual Board of Finance budget summary is supposed to produce. I think different people want different things from it, and really, it's pretty straightforward. So if we can just get the departments to present this as it is, we want nothing more, nothing less.
so what do you think the Board of Education, I use that one because it's the most unwieldy budget. what would this look like? I like what you're thinking, just the facts, ma'am, right? No illustrations, no pretty pictures, just the numbers.
That's just my
I mean, aren't they gonna build their own budget anyway? It's just a matter of picking out the things that we're asking for to shove into this.
like, I mean, we can't touch or change the line items of the Board of Education. We're concerned with the overall number. There's several accounts we're concerned with, so why can't they just put it on the sheet? It should be pretty simple. They're the numbers that we're looking for.
All right, I got you. What influenced their changes the most?
I mean,
That's
we're
on this block.
concerned with the line items, but really it's the impact of the overall budget.
Yeah. I mean, I still want to see those line items, even though we can't say the 32nd line had an increase of 38%. Why? If we don't like it, we can adjust the budget accordingly on the bottom line, but
Dan, what's your biggest concern?
Just want it done.
What do you want done? I feel like we're
I-
going in circles. We're
We
just
are
going-
going around in circles
So
because
what-
it,
what do you want done?
the first, I'm fine with the form the way it is. I'm fine with the title the way it is. Honestly, every single one of the people in the selectmen, every single one of us on this board is going to research it. They're gonna look at the data, a completely different, Mike will look at the annual report, I will look at the annual report, but Carl might look at this, and that's the only thing he uses. That's how it's gonna work. Been here for 4 years. Honestly, I would say this looks fine. This is the expectation. Everybody fills it out. Everybody uses the data exactly how they want to use the data. If you want to not use it, great. If you want to use it and that's the only thing you want to use, great.
What have you seen over the years that is making you question?
I've seen nothing up to this. I've seen going from having nothing up to this. I've seen a bunch of different ways we've done it. Mike, we've used the annual report. I remember when I first moved to town, Mustafa had an Excel spreadsheet and they would go literally line by line to adjust it and it would come out and show up the mill rate. I've seen OpenGov. There's been a bunch in the 10 years I've been in this town. We've used so many different ways of building this budget. It can be done a bunch of different ways. If this is fine, this works for the selectmen and we're going to use it however we want to use it individually, great. As long as, I guess, everybody's held to the same, everybody's going to do it, I'm fine with it. I just don't think one group should be excluded because they're, larger than,
too big to fail.
too big to fail.
Yeah, they're not going to be excluded. So
But that's kind of how I view it. If
Yeah.
this is how it's going to be and this is how we're going to get the data, I'm fine with it.
all right, so there's gonna be a lot of ways that I guess we can all glean this information, right? But in the end, it's gonna be,
I
We're
think
gonna
there's
have
gonna be
20
I think there's gonna be some departments that don't fill it out. They're gonna put like one or two things in here and they'll be done. Whatever, however
that
that's,
might be adequate for some.
that's fine, and they have to deal with Bob and
Right.
Cole and Brett.
So, does everybody agree that we won't mandate them or whoever presents to us having this as their presentation? But they should know that we're looking at this before their presentation, or we have this information, so the presentation is gonna align with what they've asked.
Most likely, and if it doesn't, we'd be pretty surprised. If you say, all right, this year, these are the key projects and key initiatives that we have for this particular year. This year, we want to get a new tanker or whatever it is. It should be in here.
Mhm.
And we should have it before and be like, this is what we probably should expect to see in this presentation. And as they're going through whatever, be like, yep, you saw that you put it on here. It's just, so we kind of know what
No surprises.
we're expecting going into the presentations. They can present however they want.
They're gonna.
This should help them, work on, organize their presentation, really.
Mike, Paul, we've been doing this long enough. They're gonna present however they're gonna present. And we could try to corral them into a little circle and everything, saying you're gonna present this much. They're gonna do what they're gonna want.
Yeah, that's overboard. We're just giving them a template. Everyone's got to use this.
Yeah, use this
And
as a guide and everything, and provide the data that you're gonna provide and everything, and that's what they're gonna do.
And they know that the Board of Finance is gonna be looking
we're gonna be looking.
Closer at this year, I can promise you that.
I think it's just, my opinion was it's more of a Board of Selectmen tool than it would be the Board of Finance tool, but.
Probably not wrong.
But it is what it is.
Well, for 6 major departments, six most major departments, it's our tool. And the Board of Selectmen tool and
Well,
The finances
we
of the
can use
town.
this as a tool, but like you were saying, the annual report is kind of like what I use, because those are factual numbers. Those are the numbers that, you can put any number on this. This annual report is.
Okay. Do we have a template team?
Do you need a vote?
Oh,
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to accept, the Board of Finance. Hold on. Budget summary for 2023, 2024, as shown on the big screen.
I'll second it, Dan. We have a first, we have a second. To accept the template? Second. I second. Okay, thank you. All in favor?
any more discussion?
More discussion? That's right. It's been a while since I've been here. Any more discussion? Sarah, this is yours. I'm looking at you.
I have no more discussion.
Great. Anybody else? More discussion?
Hell no.
Oh, we're all seated, including you and Anna. We're all seated, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you.
It's put to bed. Done.
That was a good one. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, and shockingly, I'm the one who proposed the motion.
Good job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we move on, can I just ask a clarifying question? Did we decide we're canceling the December 21st meeting?
We did, and we are. It's canceled.
So
We'll be on there. It will be on
the next meeting that we have will be after,
January 4th.
yeah, but so budgets are due to the Board of Selectmen on January 13th, correct?
Is that right? Yes. I don't have the calendar in front of me. Yes.
So
we need to- Is there a question? Should we meet the 4th then?
no, I guess I'll throw out a comment or a recommendation that we provide guidance on what we expect the 23-24 budget to look like before people get too crazy in building their budget. So an example is that last year at the end, we said that we wanted the budget to basically be net neutral. And we ended up reducing the mill rate overall. So if we are going to issue any kind of guidance like that, we need to do it before, I would say before the end of December, and we don't have another meeting between now and then.
I think we
I
need to do that
think-
after Carol's presentation.
Yeah, we can't do
We
that.
need to
till
understand
Daryl
revenue
presents.
first.
We don't know the revenue until Daryl presents.
Wait,
Which is the
The tax revenue, the proposed tax revenue.
18th of January. So I think that's the earliest time we could even talk about what we can afford to spend on town services.
okay, so hold though. So Friday, January 13th, all budgets submitted to the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, so people are submitting to the Board of Selectmen what they need to operate. They shouldn't be thinking about what the town can accommodate. They're supposed to only be giving what they absolutely need. So accommodating for increases in utility costs, if they have savings because of anything, any contractual obligations that they have, they shouldn't necessarily be thinking, and that date does not apply to the Board of Ed. That's just all the boards and commissions and departments saying, the Wheeler Library needs X to operate for next year. The fire company needs this much because they know their insurance is gonna cost this much for the buildings and the trucks, and they need to pay the per diem staff this much. And so that shouldn't have anything to do with,
Okay, but help me, so hold, I understand, but I'm looking at this calendar and that's where my confusion is coming in as to the first set is due January 18th or January 13th. Once we've figured out how much money we have to spend, when are the departments notified that they have to make changes and send those back to the Board of Selectmen?
for the most part, they aren't. The Board of Selectmen reviews the information that comes in and then they make cuts from there.
it's basically best and final right off the bat, and then that's how we had to do it the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think that we've had good luck with that.
I
Again,
mean-
understanding, go ahead.
The Board of
I'm-
Selectmen has every opportunity at their regular meetings when they discuss the budget, if they review someone's budget and say, gee, I don't understand why this department submitted an additional $20,000, they could invite them to come in if they're not one of the scheduled presentations, or they could reach out to them and say, you know, at your next meeting, please discuss this and tell us how you could cut. But for the most part, it's up to the Board of Selectmen, once the budgets have been submitted to them, to submit the best budget for the town to the Board of Finance.
So my question is, does the Board of Selectmen give guidance to the boards when every year, say that give your best and final by the 13th of January?
No, technically speaking, no. The letter comes from me that says,
So
here's
budget-
the paperwork that you need to think about. Do not just think about doing an general increase from prior year. Look at it as a zero-based budget. What do you need to
Yeah,
operate?
best and final.
Yeah, I think
This is your
that's-
best budget that you can produce to provide the services for the town.
Yeah, and there really hasn't, I don't think, been an expectation that any department or board will get a budget back to make changes.
Okay, so regardless of timing, my suggestion is that this year we communicate what our guidance is earlier than we did last year.
And that guidance, what I'm hearing is zero-based budget. Tell us what you need. And then we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say because we have a 5% increase in the grand list, just a number that you can increase your spending by 5. Just because we have funds doesn't mean we should spend it.
Well, and I would expect that the grand list is probably going to go down from 2022. Given what has happened in the used car market. So that's what drove us to have an increase in the grand list this year. I think it's going to whipsaw back. So I think we should just be prepared for that.
No, I think it's reasonable. It's possible. I haven't seen any numbers. I'm not sure if anybody has any insight to that, but I haven't bought a used car lately either, so. Yeah, I agree. I mean, sooner that.
I feel like, so my personal opinion is last year, we kind of came in late and said, we want the mill rate to go down. We want it to be the same or go down. And then we went back and asked people to kind of, get back to that number. If we are going to plan on doing something similar, I think we should notify the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed ahead of time, earlier than last year.
Yeah, what was the nuances of the last year? We saw an increase in monies in income, right?
Yeah, it was the increase in the auto.
In the auto.
It was like obscenely large. It was like 25.
Yeah,
We
and
wanted to protect ourselves from that, so we
And
didn't spend it, right? I
think
feel
we spent-
exactly.
If I remember right, it was like half or something like that.
Frankly, I think the guidance thing is just dumb.
Yeah, white wonky.
Yeah.
I mean, I expect you to have the best budget possible.
Yeah.
That's the guidance.
Best and final.
That's absolutely like that, yeah. And
But I mean, to your point, when I understand that, I mean, I just didn't agree with it last year. I was like, I don't think you go in saying, and I understand why you guys did it. It just, to me, it's just, it doesn't make any sense in my mind. It's like, these guys have to expect going in, provide your best budget because we don't want to raise taxes. And once we get information from Daryl and we know that most likely the mill rate's not going to go up, hopefully, because we have, the grand list is solid. We know amongst ourselves what the expectation is. And like you said, Dan, it's like, get your best budget out there. And
That's what we hope that
You
they
know.
give, we hope that, this is not a for-profit organization that we're running here. It's kind of one of those, let's do the best that we can for the taxpayers in the town and everything, and then move forward.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
I think if there's something crazy that comes out of Daryl's discussion, then, it's certainly something that we have to decide right away and saying, we lost a lot of money here. There's gonna be, you guys have to sharpen pencils or,
I know
there's
you
gonna be
and-
expectations even further.
I know you and I don't agree a lot of times, but honestly, I think if we, like you've said, it wasn't probably smart in the last couple of years of giving guidance, because I think when you look at it, if you say we want to be 0 or we want to be like 2%, you're introducing the ability to pad a budget.
Yeah, no, it's,
You are. It's just, I can get up to this point. I can just inch it a little bit here and inch it a little bit here. And if you say, give me your best and final, it's kind of,
what do you need to operate?
what do you need to operate?
And then we decide what we
make
can
the
afford.
Yeah, we make the
I,
decision.
I don't know if I don't know if I entirely agree with that. I mean, the year that guidance was provided, which I actually disagreed with, I wasn't a voting member then, so I couldn't vote to not do it. But I disagreed with it because I felt like it was very much like just a made up number. Oh, we'll just, we'll use like the increase in inflation or something. That was probably like the most seamless approval like process, because I think when you don't give guidance, people come in, they're like, all right, so I need everything, so I'm just gonna come in with everything I need. If you know right off the bat, there's no way we're gonna be able to consider anything, more than a 1%. They came in, at least Board of Ed, and so did Board of Selectmen, came in really close to that. So I see both sides of the argument. My experience is that one time we did it, I didn't agree with doing it, but I actually thought it worked out pretty well. I just think people, when you say, tell me what you need, well, then maybe what they need is like 5% more than what we wanted them to come in at, I don't
I
know.
guess, yeah, the needs, I think, then we have to figure out, that's not a need, that's a want. So I would like to know what it takes to operate the town garage, and they have enough money to do that. At the Board of Ed, and they have enough money to do that. I don't have a lot of inside baseball here, but I don't expect to see a lot of wild increases from Board of Ed or other departments, but we'll see, right?
I think we should expect with the teacher contract negotiation that we're gonna see increases. Mentally, like, we're not saying we agree with them, we're just gonna mentally prepare for that. There was a whole new.
And realistically, last year, what happened, if we all remember, is that we were given budgets by the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, or the Board of Ed, that was supposed to be their final and best. And we said, these are too high by X dollars, cut each of them by half of each. And we sent them back, and they came back and said, oh, look, we were able to do that because of whatever. But the conclusion is that then means that the first one they gave us, even though that was supposed to be final and best, was not final and best. So my point is, and there was a lot of anxiety around that whole conversation at the last minute saying you need to cut by $100, that, well, we can't do that because we already gave you final and best. So if we're going to say that here's a number, which is what we did last year, we need to get to, I'm saying if we're going to do that, my opinion is we should do that sooner rather than later.
And
If
I
we're not going to do
I
it,
don't
to
disagree with you, Winona. It's just a question of the earliest we can do that is after a meeting with Daryl.
oh, and that's fine. That's why I was questioning the schedule to make sure I understood. And I'm not saying that we have to do that. I'm just saying though, if we plan to, my request is to do it earlier than we did in the process in
Yeah, I
this
think-
year's budget.
I think that's right. I mean, you just need data to do that smartly,
Yeah.
right? I think knowing what all these give backs are going to be from departments, that's another piece of the puzzle. And those are enormous this year, right? What's going in non-lapsing funds and give backs to the town. So that's all part of the baked into the cake, right? And we just.
And maybe to Sarah's point, we don't give any guidance. I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, I think we went back a couple steps, but, if you guys are all set with that, we'll move on to monthly reports, of which you just received them, so there won't be any kind of, for October anyway, there won't be any kind of, discussion for those. One I did send out, since we're on the kind of the topic, was the non-lapsing account. That's one report that I received that I forwarded out, if everybody saw that.
Yeah,
That is current values. That's not been, it's before any deposit is made this year. So my understanding is they'll fund that at the full 2%, which is by our town agreement with them, which would be another, round numbers, another 280,000. So, we'll be in that $500,000 plus range of a balance. But Christine, W did send something out. They do have a plan for some good spend on other educational needs. So, there's a plan for spending some portion of that, $580,000 or whatever it is.
So, Paul, I think if you don't, because I know you do get the opportunity to talk to Christine sometimes, I would love in their presentation for them to just have a slide on what they plan to spend there, because we always ask it and Christine rattles it off and I try to write it all down. Like, I would love to have it. What's your plan?
So I think
Um,
that was the second mailing I had. So it's,
Okay.
but I agree, that should be part of
Yeah.
it. And then again, it's been a lot of plans. I've not seen a lot of movement, a lot of spend, big spend in that, from that fund. So I think they need to do that. These are town dollars, town taxpayer monies. We gave it to them. Use it for education. Let's get it out of that account and get it spent to things to help the kids. But I think I agree. It should be a slide, not 12 slides. It should be a
No,
slide
right.
on the Board of Education.
Yeah. Last year she rattled off like 10 really important things,
And I think most of them you'll see are on that sheet I sent out today.
Oh, good.
So the other reports, I'm sorry, Christine, were for what months?
So
To
the,
comment on that report is that you can't really read what the spend was because it's like the invoice number is like giant and then you have like 3 letters. I don't know if that's just a formatting thing, but it would be helpful if we could read the line item.
Gotcha. Was that the first time I sent it or the second? I thought the second one was a bit clearer.
Um,
Yeah, it was full.
I'm looking at December 5th.
Like it will say, like on this one invoice, it's 1465 professional ...
so that's the town's other side of it. The Board of Ed has their own report that has all their vendors and their, what everything's for. I gave this to Paul because he hadn't gotten the one from the Board of Ed.
Right. So I got one from the Board of Ed that had it all there. It was like July reports. The last page that is 180 degrees out is the non-lapsing account that has the vendors and the spend.
Yeah.
But again, I think it was the second mailing, but you're right. I see your head turning. I had to do the same thing. I had to take each page individually. I'm not sure. I tried, but,
Yeah.
You said the
Yeah.
last page, yeah.
Awesome.
So wait, am I on mute?
No, I'm hearing you.
So in the first one that's like a PDF, I saw a spend of $50,000 or something, but I don't see that in here on the last page.
This is a proposed, so I think what we saw was what was already spent and this is what they want to spend.
Yeah, okay, so hold. So then that means that the first one that Paul sent that has the non-lapsing, this is the one where you can't read it because it's got the invoice number. So for instance, I was just curious, what is invoice B15224187 mini desk for $50,000? Curious. Not that I need to know, but you can't read the memo is my point.
So the feedback I'll give to her is more detail when they.
Or just change the format so that we can read it.
Yeah,
the link. Yep, okay.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
good call.
That one's the town's report into QuickBooks. That won't be changing.
That's not their non-lapsing.
That's our CNR, how we're actually, because we're the ones that cut the checks. We hold the bank account
For their non-lapsing.
for the
So
non-lapsing.
you don't have a view,
You just muted yourself.
you don't have a view that shows the entire memo?
This is whatever we're putting in to write the check. So that the information's being supplied by the Board of Ed. They have their own report. They're the ones that are responsible for supplying you with that information. We did it just as a backup so you would have something because they hadn't sent one. Your report comes from the Board of Ed.
Okay, and this report that I'm looking at that is cut off is your report.
That's the town's report in QuickBooks.
So we need to request reports from Christine.
It's in the report, the last page of what Paul sent to you guys. So she
That's-
can get that from
but-
Christine and Bill.
But that doesn't jive. Those two sets of numbers are not the same.
Yeah, the other one's called proposed. I think
I'm hearing
Paul,
you.
maybe next time you talk to her, I agree with Winona. It would be nice if we could have a report of what was spent. That's clear.
So we'll get it. a ledger of exactly what was spent, real, complete names and nouns, and then, those amounts. I got you.
So basically, the way that we have to, it's a separate workbook in QuickBooks from the general fund, so it's not gonna look the same as the general fund. And we have to enter a lot of information into one tiny little spot. So that's why things are abbreviated and there's invoice numbers and all these things in one spot where it doesn't look the same in the general fund.
Okay,
So for
But-
our accounting, we have to do it the way it is. I can't change it.
and no, I understand that when you're saying that you're not supposed to be supplying that report, period. So I'm saying the Board of Ed should be giving us, similar to the last page in this file that I have my head turned sideways to review, which is the proposed expenditures. We should ask them to include the actual expenditures.
Yeah, no, I think that's, well, I'll have them do. When she sends me this report, or who she sends it to, before it's compiled in the whoever's cutting the checks, yeah, we'll have some understanding of that, yes. This is the first time I've seen anything come from the Board of Ed on this topic, so we'll make it better.
Yeah, and whatever Bill's working from is what Deb had created because they haven't spent anything out of the non-lapsing since he's been on board. So he may need to create his own.
Okay, I just sent that for an info share. What other reports?
So I sent out before Thanksgiving the monthly reports for September, the general government profit and loss, the tax collection report, and then the Board of Ed reports for July, August, September. And then the reports that went out today that there was no expectation that you would look at before the meeting were the October Board of Ed, tax collections, and general government profit and loss. Our new tax collector has started, so you may see a new format for the tax collections report at some point. I'm gonna keep using this until she's up to speed and ready to take back over reporting. But she may be bringing a different format from her other municipality.
Great. So those reports were sent out, a couple of weeks ago. We probably all scanned them back then, and I'm not sure if anybody has any real questions on them, but, we have them. They're in your inboxes. So is October's, and we can discuss if anybody has any specific questions, once they're reviewed.
We're having very good returns from both American National Recovery Group, who has our delinquent motor vehicle and personal property, and also good response from the files that were sent to Lloyd Langhammer, who has our delinquent real estate. So we are collecting a large number of back taxes, so it's good to get that cleared up.
Good stuff.
Is that including is it the business back taxes also,
Oh, yes.
personal? Oh, however it's labeled. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
specific.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on monthly reports, past or future?
And Christine, any concerns that you have with any of the reports from September?
Did you see something that I should be
No.
concerned about?
No, I just, you know these numbers back and forth better than us, and we're just, we're sometimes, you as our town leader, as our, in the finances, like to get you, making sure that you're liking what you're seeing.
Yes, I will bring up one thing. Recreation, again, is probably going to need to come for an additional appropriation as the year progresses, because again, they are having astronomical registrations in their programs. We are having tons of people sign up for all the programs in town, which is a great thing. We're running more programs. So they have to in January, they're trying to project what programs they're going to run starting in July and how many people are going to sign up for them. And most of the programs run that if it costs $80 from the instructor, the person's paying $80 to rec, and then rec is cutting a check for $80 per person to the instructor. So it's a one-to-one. So basically, if we have more people than participate or we have new programs, we're going to have to go for an additional appropriation request to have more money to pay out those expenses, but we have the corresponding revenue coming in from the participants. So it's
Net
a
neutral.
Feels net
technicality that
zero
has to
big
happen.
thing. Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean,
So that's the only thing that I will highlight because we're already over 50% for rec in their expenses, but they've brought in the corresponding revenue and they're doing a great job.
what kind of numbers would you expect to see as a needed expenditure?
I would say maybe about 15,000
Okay.
when we get towards the end of the year, but we like to kind of see where we're at and project from there.
And those monies are coming in at the same time. So,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
That's great compared, you know, when you look in Rhode Island, like Hopkinton there, their rec departments are very robust and everything. That gets a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great thing. It really is.
Okay, all set with the reports. Next line item is review of minutes. There were two. I forget the dates.
So it should be June 15th and November 2nd. The June 15th, the town clerk let us know had never been approved. They were submitted as draft minutes, but they just weren't technically approved. So just a formality.
Okay. I know one was talking about the stormwater mitigation presentations and vote, and the other was a more general meeting. I forget exactly, I read them earlier. Has everybody had time to take a peek? If you have, I entertain a motion.
I wasn't at June, so I'm gonna abstain from that one, so if someone else can do a motion on that, I will do the motion for the last meeting, the November meeting.
I wasn't there for that one, so I'll do the motion, accept the minutes for Board of Finance meeting, Zoom meeting, June 15th, 2022 at 7 PM as written.
I will second.
Just a note, because I wasn't at that meeting. The actual voting, the ARPA funding request doesn't actually have a dollar amount in there.
Is that for that was for the school, right?
So 298 Westerly Road operating,
Number 6,
yeah.
So if you can amend that to say not to exceed $120,000, that was the number for that particular item. Number 6, you just want to add ARPA funding request not to exceed $120,000.
No, this is under June.
June 15th.
I will modify my vote. I'll modify my motion to include the changes as stated for line 6 to include not to exceed 120,000.
Great. Okay, I will second that.
good catch there, Sarah.
I was just curious.
Very nice. Any more discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. All in favor of approving the June 15th meeting minutes, say aye.
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 Just one abstention.
Would you? Yeah. Okay, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1. Okay. The next set of minutes, I was not at. Everyone's voting. 5-0. Only 6 of us can vote, sorry.
I'll move to accept the November 2nd, 2022 minutes as presented.
Hey,
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second for those minutes. Any discussion, any edits?
I just think for the third bullet, even though the motion didn't pass, we should also include it goes $7,100. The cost, what we were at, because that's what we were voting on was the funding. It's just like you had in bullet 4. I'm not sure why bullet 4 is above bullet 3.
3.
Yeah, and Amy, if you can change the approximately 7,000 to $7,100, and you can get rid of approximately for number 4. It was $7,100 for the capital transfer.
So I'm modifying my motion to approve the minutes of November 2nd, 2022. Modifying bullet point 4 to read $7,100, take out approximately. And number 3, the ARPA fund request was $7,000. And that's it. Other than that, it's as written.
I think Carl, you were the second on that. Is that right? Okay. Any further discussion? If so, we'll take a vote. All in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
1, 2, 3,
Aye.
4, and 2 abstentions. I was not there. And it was Dan. Okay, thank you for that. Minutes are approved. There is one set of minutes pending that I own, June 6th. So I will, July 6th is what I meant to say. I will take care of those and we'll have those for the next meeting. Okay, public comments, if there are any. Oh, First Selectman Bob Carlson, please step to the podium.
Just two quick things. One, tri-board meeting Monday at 6. I heard a lot of, we should ask Christine this, we should ask Christine that. She'll be in the same room with you if you come to the meeting on Monday night. So you can ask her those questions yourself. She's the chairperson of that meeting. On the
Sorry,
12th,
is there
Monday
a-
the 12th.
Is there an agenda out by Miss?
She's gonna have the agenda out tomorrow. So we're having plenty of time. We'll get you copies of the agenda ahead of time, but she's running that meeting. You're gonna run the one that whenever we have it in this meeting,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
Yeah.
And secondly, Michael, when you're talking about the profit and loss, I did the October one today. What I typically do is I did two magic markers. I know that October is 4 months into the year. So I know that everything should be at 33.3333%. I just look at my pay, I'm at 33.333, everything off of that. So if it's less than that, it means we're ahead of the game. If we're talking about expenses, not revenue. So I do those in yellow, and the ones that were on the opposite side, I do in orange. Because I'm jumping on why are we ahead, and I go back and look at it. Something like a state trooper, we don't get that money till the end, you know, or we don't get that bill to the end. So sometimes it's a little bit skewed, but all the employees and most of the things should be at 33.3% because we're 4 months in. That's just the easiest thing for so it pops out at you one way or the other. And of
Very
course, on the revenue side, it's the opposite. You want it to be higher, not lower. So
Different color.
yeah, just it's to me, yellow is good, orange is bad. That's what I-
Okay. Really, they look the
It
same.
just makes it easier to go through, and you can go through it in like 10 or 15 minutes, and then it makes things pop out. So
Great. Thank you for that, Bob. Any other public comments? Okay, all right, so last time.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, that's everybody.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
Feeling better at the house, Sarah, good luck.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.